Să le pornite.
Sigur?
Eu mi-am pus ăsta pe box, pe ăsta îl țin de la voi de pe cap, dar o să mă bazez pe ăsta.
Mai spun ceva în el?
Hai să mai încercăm o dată, stai să pun...
Exact.
Co? No nie, bo tak jakoś nie myślisz, że to nie wiesz. Każdy może zmienić zdanie. Ale nie. Nie zmieniam zdania, jak już na coś to... Świetnie.
Uite, băgăm asta în bancă, că e loc aici. Se poate băga aici în bancă. E portofel. Și scaunul aici nu e nicio problemă. Nu, păi și bună Dăniș și a pus și microfonul. Notează? Îl punem și noi acolo, undeva. Țineți un pic asta. Nu avem cum să dărâmă. Știu și asta, dar problema e că se poate da de-a dura, că poate mișcăm asta și... Uite. Da? Eu zic că e mai safe așa, nu? Unde e prezentarea? Lucian? Unde e prezentarea afișul?
Unde a pus-o Marina?
Unde a pus-o Marina? I-a dat open în loc să-i dea save?
Nu e pus aia de acolo?
Unde? Aici și unde a salvat? Ia să dăm și noi save, hai să o mă acolo.
Bine, bine, ok. Deci te duci oricum, dar nu știu pe cine găsesc. Da, asta la cadrul, da? Eu știu ce, nici de aceea. Bine, hai. Băieți. Doar așa să se vadă puțin. Da. Nici.
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Loredana Radu. I'm associate professor here in the National University for Political Studies and Public Administration. And of course, it is my great pleasure to welcome Mr. Timo Pesonen, Director General for Communication at the European Commission. So he is the one in charge of bringing Europe closer to its citizens. All research reveals that our topic today, focusing on fake news, is of great concern for most member states and for the European Union as a whole. Because according to the last report of a dedicated commission appointed by the European Commission on this topic, fake news does affect the resilience of citizens in the member states, and it actually constitutes a threat to the democratic values and processes. Also, our own research implemented here at our university revealed the fact that Romanians' resilience is affected, is very much affected by this worrying phenomenon, by the digital disinformation, by the digital disorder, by the fake news, let's call it this way, because I think this is a more trendy word. In this context, dedicated expertise and projects are vital for being able to cope with this phenomenon and to create the right our students, our faculty members, and of course our friends. Mr. Pesonen, thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Loredana. If you may me call you Loredana, I'm Timo. So when you ask me, don't say, dear Mr. Pesonen, blah, blah, blah. You say, hi, Timo, how are you? I'm fine, by the way. Nobody asked me. I had a very good discussion with the rector, Dr. before. Really, I'm impressed, I mean, of the quality of this most distinguished university in Bucharest. Alma mater of also Angela. Angela is head of Commission representation here. She's the ambassador of Jean-Claude Juncker in Romania. And I have to say that I came last night to Bucharest airport, and I saw snow. I haven't seen snow since last April, when I was in Finnish Lapland, and I go to Helsinki regularly because I have some of my children there studying. So there is no snow in Finland yet, but it's snow here, which is a nice welcome. I'm not a Santa Claus, so I didn't bring any gifts. I have my Polish colleague Robert Soltik. He doesn't look like a Santa Claus. He looks more like a hobbit, but he's a good guy. He's on the right side of the history. I think this is a very timely moment to come. I was last time here 2006, and I have to regret that it took me so long, because just, you know, the life and the work goes as it goes. And luckily now we agreed with Angela that before the presidency starts, the EU presidency, I will come to meet with the staff. And I was very privileged to get invitation from you to come to talk with you. And I will float with few ideas, and then let's have a discussion. So I'm not going to blah, blah, blah for 40 minutes and then leave. I will try to be short on 10 minutes, and then we have time to discuss for your questions and your comments. So you challenge me and you give it new ideas, because I'm here to learn from you and your experience, because you are the generation. You are the one, the hope of the nation, the hope of Europe. And this is everywhere. I was in Chakra a few weeks ago, exactly the similar message. You don't have the burden of the past. You hear the stories from your parents, from your grandparents, but you are more free, are better educated, better linguistical skills, better literal skills, better media skills than any of the previous generations. So there's a big expectations on you, and a heavy responsibility also on your soldiers to deliver and to take the responsibility of Europe and of Romania and this beautiful 100th anniversary nation of independence. Well, the EU presidency of Romania is coming, and people talk a lot about the road to Sibiu. Road to Sibiu was an idea by Jean-Claude Juncker in his speech 2017, when he was advocating what is the agenda of EU 27 after this unfortunate and sad Brexit will be happening during the Romanian presidency. And then he floated the idea together with your president, to have a leaders meeting in Sibiu at the eve of the European elections, but after the Brexit takes place. So that's the moment for all of us, not only for the leaders, because the leaders meeting are leaders meeting. They get together, there is a family photo, and that's it. They give a declaration or, conclusions. But what we are trying to do is, together with Angela and together with a lot of colleagues, to also create a youth event. Unfortunately, not in Sibiu, but close to Sibiu because of logistics and accommodation, etc. To bring, younger people from everywhere in Europe together to Romania and to give their views. What do you want from the future of Europe? And I'm sure that there will be a way how all of you can contribute to this debate. When we look back, before I come to fake news, I mean, when Juncker Commission started, I mean, the main topic was the economic crisis still, and the Greek situation. Greek was drowning. It took some time before the Tsipras-led government found a way of let's say, continuing the assistance given by IMF and the Eurogroup and the European Central Bank. But then in summer 2015, there was a deal which guaranteed the smooth continuing of this assistance program for Greece and stabilize the situation. And now Greece is out from the assistance program. And then there was kind of a few weeks of like relief. Okay, now we can go forward with our agenda of energy union, climate change, defense union, investments to Europe, investments to all member states, like in Romania, kind of positive agenda. And then came the migration crisis, started from Syria. And we all remember that sad photo, the dead baby at the Mediterranean, which woke up all of us in Europe that something has to be done, and quickly and together. And that dominated the agenda, European agenda that was the number one topic until one vote in one member state. I mean the Brexit vote. And I'm not sure how many of you were really thinking that they might vote to leave. I didn't, because I was always thinking that the Brits are very rational and pragmatic and conservative. So they prefer status quo, business as usual, instead of change, instead of revolution. But they voted to leave. And of course that was a shock. Also for the British politicians themselves. Prime Minister Cameron left immediately. Farage left his position in UKIP. Boris Johnson left. So then, Theresa May became the Prime Minister, having a huge burden in her. And now she's trying to find a way to get, this the negotiated deal to be adopted in the Parliament. And then there were still speculations that EU might be split, that maybe Czechs might leave, Czech Republic, or Czechia is called now. Even Finland was referred to some speculations, Sweden, that once one leaves there is a domino, and at least the EU27 will not stay united. But against all odds, EU27 has been united all the way and supporting Michel Barnier as a chief negotiator to try to find a solution. And then after that, this fake news, disinformation, after also the US president's election, is started to become more and more visible in the public debate. It has always been there. You all maybe you don't remember, but even I don't remember, but I have seen the photos where Trotsky was taken out from the Soviet leaders because he became unpopular, and then he was executed, murdered. So these operations have always been there, but with the social media, it has become more and more visible and dominant in the public debate. So what is in a way happening is that we are coming to the area of preparing the European elections in May. And by the way, you will all vote, I hope. And you will tell your friends and your relatives and your family members, go and vote. Because let's not take it for granted that we can always vote. You are that generation that you take it for granted. But in this room there are people who don't. Robert, a Polish guy, for the first 20 years he has no passport. He couldn't leave the country. Vote for what? So I think this is important that we go back a little bit and value what we have achieved together in Europe. So we have freedom of expression, freedom of media, citizens' rights, human rights, and so forth. These are the common European values and social market economy. And these values are under attack. I spoke about this in other member states, and then somebody commented to me that, Timo, we are not at war. And we are not at war, but we are facing serious attempts to destabilize and even dismantle the European project. I don't care about Brussels, I mean the institutions and myself and the bureaucrats, but I think the European way of living, where our system is based compared to some others, like our big eastern neighbor or the China. We have our way of living, which we have created together since the Roman Empire, which you know much better than I do because you were part of it. I was in the other side, on the northern Rhine, and we stopped. The northern barbarians stopped the Romans to go up to the north. So how have we been reacting to this disinformation and fake news? First, in 2015, we established the East Stratcom. All these horrible names, but it means a small group of very professional, committed Europeans who work in Brussels in External Action Service, who are following the Russian propaganda and reacting to that, detecting and reacting, correcting the lies and the fake news. A small team. In the beginning, it was mainly targeted to Baltics, to Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, to Finland also to a certain extent. And it was also treated in Europe at that way, that it's a specific issue to these countries. But now we all know that these are everywhere. The Dutch elections, the French presidential elections, US elections, there is evidence that there has been this disinformation operations in these countries. At the time, the Brexit, of course, also at the time of national and national important elections. So, because of that, the Europe, which means our national leaders, our institutions, have realized that actually we have to do something more coherent. And that's why last week the leaders in the European Council, they adopted, the conclusions where they endorsed the Commission communication or our strategy on how to fight the fake news together. And when I say together, I mean that, no European institution, no bureaucrat in Brussels can alone or is not credible alone to react and to correct the fake news and disinformation. So first, we increase the capacity of our let's say operations. We work together with the member states. We create a rapid alert system, which is already in place. Which means that if somebody spots, for example, in Sweden, a fake news coming from any directions or national, they are not always coming outside. There are internal, of course, as you know. I mean, populist and extreme nationalists from left and right who want to. You also want to, let's say, to challenge our way of living. And I don't say that they are anti-EU. EU is just an EU, but it's a broader issue than just the European Union. What we are talking about here. And then we are making a coordinated response, so that there will be focal points in each member state, working closest to the Prime Minister or Chancellor or President, whoever is in power, who has then the right to react quickly, because you know how it goes. If there is a lie, and if the lie lives long, it becomes truth, or at least half truth. At least it leaves a doubt. And if you follow, I mean, some disinformation and this fake news, those who spread them don't believe that people really believe them, because they are so blunt and so obvious. But they leave a feeling of doubt in your mind, that maybe there is some truth, or even that there is nothing. NATO soldiers are not raping women in Baltic countries. Full stop. It's not happening. It's not happening. to give one of the most well-known and brutal examples. But there are also, I mean, how we can react to that. And one important thing is that we have the platforms, Google and Facebook, on board, and they have been participating in this self-regulatory work, and also that we have now a kind of agreement with them that they will do their part, and then if that doesn't work, then we can also interfere with the regulation. Member states are agreeing. We also need to raise the awareness of citizens. We have to be more, let's say, teaching the media literacy. I mean, for students like you, also at the schools. Or I use, these examples that, earlier, when if you were living in a house and you had a neighbor who was old, and who was too old, to clean the house of snow in front of the house, the yard, you went to help him or her. Now you can do the same and to tell them that, look, don't believe everything what is in the newspaper, or don't believe what is on the Facebook. My father is 75, he's on the Facebook, and he practically believes everything what the big neighbor is putting there. Because he's used to that. I mean, what is in the TV, what is in the printed media is true. So also Facebook is true. Well, come on, we all know. You can create your account and you can operate the way you want. So this is very important, the raising awareness and raising the responsibility. So to sum up, one important point is that some people tell that, is this somehow kind of way of influencing on media and limiting the freedom of media. That's definitely not the case. Absolutely not. This is the contrary. And the independent fact-checkers are independent fact-checkers in all the member states. They are not paid by us. They are not working for us. They are not working for the governments. They are independent who are doing their job and doing this myth-busting and debunking of the myths. And what comes, I mean, to the work of the journalist. I know that some of you study communication, some may become a journalist. I mean, we cannot tolerate that there have been murders of journalists in Europe. Lately in Slovakia, in Malta. There has to be zero tolerance to this kind of operations. And in all member states, the journalists have faced threats of physical, or mental, or telephone calls. In Finland also, journalists have received phone calls. We know where your daughter goes to school. If you have been writing positive, or let's say, understanding stories about how to integrate the migrants to the country, kind of. So it doesn't mean that you are a kind of a radical green left, want to embrace the whole world, but just objectively saying that integration is very important and it could be done this and that way. And these journalists have faced stress. We know how you walk home from the metro. Isn't this threatening? Isn't this? And then you say, for example, if somebody would do that to me, I would say, well, go out of here. I don't care. I'm a tough guy. I'm a big guy. But deep in your mind, even if you don't care about yourself, you may start thinking about, what about my children? So it may lead, at the worst case scenario, a certain toning down, kind of a self-assessment, whether I continue my very vocal self-censorship. And then they already get it. They get it. And actually they have got it because we even talk about them. You know what I mean? I'm very happy to continue discussion with you, and Loredana, kick off the show.
Yes, subliminal messages could be more effective than the straightforward ones. That's true. And when we speak about fake news, there is a full array of associative phenomena, in fact. So is it disinformation? Is it half-truth? Is it deep fake? I had the chance to read this action plan of the European Commission to counter online disinformation. And I think that a big step forward is that now things are, let's say, described in a more straightforward and direct manner. I mean, even the challenges are phrased in a very direct manner that won't leave place to too many interpretations. So I think, in my opinion, that this is a big step forward in order to tackle the phenomenon as such. Now, let's open the floor for discussions. We would like to hear your opinions, your views, your ideas, your questions. If you need to clarify something, if you need to check something, maybe you could treat us as fact checkers. Who knows? But please be active, because only in this way you could verify and maybe authenticate your sources, your pieces of information. Yeah. So there is a mobile microphone. My colleague there, Marina, and my other colleague, Mirela, are available there for you. So please feel free to ask questions, because this is the best place to ask this kind of questions.
You can also, if you want other issues on the agenda, EU agenda, and try together with Angela to comment with you. Please.
Hello, Mr. Pesonen. Welcome here today. We all know that fake news phenomenon is not something new. It has been used since the oldest time to create chaos between opponents and to destabilize them. Today we face this phenomenon to a much higher level, and our tool today is internet. Today anyone has access to a mobile device, and everyone can be a source of information. I think there are two groups from where you can get fake news. The first group can be any one of us who post whatever we want to do it. Doesn't matter if it's fake or not, doesn't matter if we really believe it or not. And we don't do it deliberately, we just do it because anyone could do it. So we have the second group. This is the most important threat, the organized group who spread fake news for
some agenda, some interest.
Clear interest, political interest, financial interest, and we have seen in the last years, and more recently we have seen in the last couple of days, fake news coming from Russia. More than 600 Twitter accounts spread and share a lot of fake images about French people get injured by French forces. I like to tell, I was really impressed to hear you in those minutes, but I don't really understand how we can really fight this phenomenon, because
so this is your question. Sorry for
yeah.
interrupting you, but I just want to give the opportunity to other members of audience to ask questions. Your question is how we could fight?
Yes.
You could
yes,
fight.
yes.
We could be together.
We could fight. Thank you, Mr. Pesonen.
Very direct question.
Well, I think kind of the fighting starts inside of your head. That you doubt. You personally doubt what you see. And then you comment on your account what is the truth from your thinking. It is not much, but if you have if we have millions like you in Europe, it counts. Of course, I mean, these orchestrated operations are very difficult to tackle. And there comes in, let's say, this educational side, so that people don't take it for granted what they see in social media. Because social media has revolutionized, as you said. It's always been there, but it has been different. And also this anti-EU claims about, you know, this size of the strawberries, or the curve of the Concorde, or all this, they came from UK originally from the yellow press, which has always been anti-EU, and they wanted to ridiculize the European project, ridiculize, and they succeeded because of the Brexit. But if I think back when I was a spokesman more than 20 years ago, and I was trying to correct these stories, it was still quite innocent compared to what we are facing now, as you rightly said it. But this is much more serious, what we are seeing. A personal example of last summer when Putin and Trump met in Helsinki. And after that, my wife, who was active on this baby.com, which is a very popular website in Finland. We have a 4-year-old son with my wife. And that's, because of how you're breastfeeding or diapers or this kind of thing, human things, where mothers are changing and even fathers are changing their views on schools and whatever comes with the children, parental things. And suddenly she showed me at the end of July that, Timo, have a look. I'm never on this side. Yeah, but have a look. And there was a debate on how much better looking and more credible leader Vladimir Ilyich is compared to Donald Trump. In that side. Why? Because that side is very popular. It reaches an audience which these operations might not reach otherwise. So we have to be very, 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 let's say, present in everywhere. But I don't have one answer. If I had, we would be winning. But so we just have to put our act together. But thanks for your question.
So I'd just like to ask, are there any specific plans for next year's elections, European Parliament elections? So what is going to be done specifically for the elections? Thanks a lot.
Thanks. This whole action plan, what Loredana referred, it was actually, the timing was because of the elections. So the work has started already immediately after the intensified work after last Friday. So that, there is a more, let's say, systematic cooperation between the member states, the governments, and the Commission, and also the European Parliament, and the political parties which are running to the European Parliament. So this is more concrete detecting and then reacting to this information and correcting and being fast.
Hello, thank you for being here today. It was very interesting hearing you. My question is related to the media ecosystem. Part of the problem is that recent surveys indicate that traditional media is becoming less and less trustworthy for the citizens, for the audience. And one of the measures proposed by the Commission is protecting the diversity and stability of the media ecosystem in the EU. And I wanted to ask you, what would be the concrete measures taken into consideration for the future?
It's a very good question because, giving money is not the solution. Because the traditional media, you said traditional media, printed media. Because if you look what is happening everywhere in Europe, the media houses are losing their income because people are in the social media. So you don't get advertisement to your papers anymore. And people are not, they don't have subscriptions to newspapers. So people don't get newspapers at home anymore as they used to have. Which means the cuts in the number of the journalists, for example. And where does it lead? It maybe leads also quite evidently decrease in the quality. And the traditional quality papers need to compete with social media online reporting and all these afternoon yellow papers. So it kind of blurs the whole existence of this traditional media in that respect. I think the only thing what we can do is to continue, let's say, being part of supporting the member states in education of the journalists and the communicators, and also let's say organizing occasions for journalists, to come to discuss with us, and we come to discuss with them, and also with our political masters, and that should be the case in all the member states. I mean, it doesn't help that if Corina Crețu, who is an excellent commissioner, would be even every day in Romania, because he's a commissioner. But you need to have, you know, the national politicians and to be vocal through, and to have these third-party endorsements for our messages. But it's very serious because you see it everywhere. You see the public, even BBC is in trouble.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have actually two questions. One is related to budget. When we talk about the industry of fake news, we are talking of huge, determined budgets. Is the EU and the EU members, are they ready to invest a comparable amount of money? And the second question is related to media literacy and to a concept that I happen to love very much, is the resilience to fake news. Is not only spotting and resisting, is also resisting the change of mind. What are the EU plans for this? Thank you very much.
Well, the change of mind sounds a bit dangerous. We don't want to, you know, go too far in trying to change people's minds. Because you understand, but I'm just, you know, exactly. On the budgetary point, I mean, we are increasing our input, but it's in the hands of the member states. I mean, how much fund they give for example, for commission, for our operations, and then we can then support, you know, people like you. It has been a bit timid and slow, but it's increasing and getting better, but the resources are not comparable with what resources what the external operators have. I mean, Steve Bannon he's on the record, the former advisor to President Trump, when he has said that he has spent $5 million of his own money so far in his operations in Europe. So we don't have that kind of luxury. But it's it's a way. I mean, if you allow me the comparison, I mean, you can be smaller, but you can be more clever. That's the only asset what we have. But seriously, more resources is being now decided and will be also put in place already before the election, so that we are more up to date. On the change of mindset, what do you think yourself? I mean, how would you, if you were me, how would you react? Because it's very. Because I studied all kind of things, not very well, but I mean, no psychotherapy I didn't take.
Well, now allow me to introduce myself for you to know in what is my position. I'm the director of the Center for Independent Journalism, and I'm a PhD student to this school, doing a thesis on digital communication. What else?
You should come and I should ask you and not you me, because you're a better expert.
No, we have invested a lot compared to our resources in media literacy, and we are working with high school students. From the basic forms of being able to discern between information and opinion, information and advertising, to the more complicated issues of how to make up your own mind, how not to allow yourself to be guided by others, which is very difficult, because on one hand you want to educate the people, on the other hand you tell them, don't believe anything, don't believe me included. But we think that educating people from the very early age to build this kind of self-confidence and self-reliance may be winning on a long time. Our problem, and we recognize it, is that we may not have that long time.
That's a very good point. We don't have. If we have a long-term strategy, we have lost. We are gone. So of course we have to act now, and I think what you do is exactly the right thing to start. The younger, the better. Because the mobile devices now, you have 7-year-old I mean, children at schools with their mobile devices, and internet is open, so we really have to be alerted. And of course, the responsibility also of the parents. So I mean, to talk with the teachers, and then teachers to talk with the students, and also to the parents. I mean,